102.7 WMJ FM Bermuda. Magic 102.7. The opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the ownership, management, or staff of Magic 102.7 or Inter-Island Communications.
It's time now for the Need to Lead motivational program with Shangri-La Durham Thompson.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to the Need to Lead on Magic 102.7. And once again, we begin by asking, O Lord, that the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts will be acceptable unto you. And we pray, of course, that those listening today will be blessed and that we will all work harder to be better servant leaders for you. And I pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen. I have to remove this mask a little bit. It's kind of impeding my speech here.
Me too.
Now, the Need to Lead is designed to improve our servant leadership skills. And every week we attempt to speak out on things that make for solid doctrine. We're reminded that leadership develops daily, not in one day. And it is our hope that the listening audience will be inspired and motivated, for as instructed in Titus 2 and 1, we want to make a difference. It says, speak out on things that make for solid doctrine. We emphasize weekly, that God has given each of us gifts and skills that we can use to lead others to Him. Following the example of Jesus Christ, we aim to become wiser servant leaders, for as Proverbs 11 and 14 reminds us that without wise leadership, a nation is in trouble. Now, before we begin today, I must extend my condolences to the family of my friend, Miss Beverly Taylor. Her brother Gregory Holdit passed away, and Beverly worked with me at Prospect Primary. She is a teacher in the system and one of those people who is always helping others. And so I know she will miss her brother tremendously, and I can't imagine what that is like. But I work with Beverly as she is a Sunday school superintendent at her chapel. And so we meet when it be next week, Beverly. But again, to you and your family, your mom and father, and to your extended family, my sincere condolences. And I also must extend condolences to the family of Mr. Calvin Smith, my mother's longtime friend. And because of her, he was a mentor to me. He was Bermuda's first statistician and set up the statistical office. And he was the husband to my wonderful Aunt Janine. And today I dedicate this show to his memory. Someone said on a talk show earlier this week that he was one who mentored everyone. But I know what he did for me. And earlier this week, my sister sent me something that she wants to send to Janine. And she talked about having been at Howard University, she and Donna. And Shelby said she got an A in statistics because of Uncle Cal. That's what we called him, because we knew him all our lives. His mother was my Aunt Ruth. She was deaf. And people, took time to, well, people didn't always take time because it took time to speak with her. But Aunt Ruth used to visit my house. We lived on Radnor Road as she did. And Aunt Ruth, between my house and her house, we were always connected, and my mother would spend time talking to her, I guess, and that's why my sister kind of went into the healthcare system, because my mother used to take her around to visit the elderly all the time. But Aunt Ruth was this wonderful, wonderful woman. I said she was deaf, but my mom and Aunt Ruth used to get together and talk, and I knew that they would be talking for hours. So that was the time that we would go out and play, and we knew that we could play until the lights went off because Aunt Ruth was there with my mother. So Calvin is Ruth's son, and he, because of his mom, I guess, and their relationship with us, he was always there for us. And Shelby remembers getting an A in statistics, but I also remember when I was at Miami University, Oxford, Ohio, Calvin Smith was there for me. I had to write a paper on something, doing a master's program. And I remember I went to him and he designed my whole project. so that the professor that came down said it was exceptional. When somebody questioned me about it, the professor looked at the person and said, she's got it together. Now, not that I had it together. Calvin Smith had it together. I remember so well when I graduated from college. That was around 1976 when I graduated. Good heavens, where has the time gone? But Calvin took me under his wing, as did Alex Scott and some of the others that, were my mom's closest friends. And I remember walking the hills and canvassing with Arthur Hudson and with Cal. And I remember going to Mr. Prophet's house and sitting down and having some wine or something. And I said to them, look, we can't stay here. We've got to get up and move. And so I encouraged them, look, let's go. And he said, oh, you're always whipping me, trying to make sure that I do this walking. But I canvassed with them and I learned a lot about them. And like I said, Calvin has always been a part of my life. Even when I went to study abroad to school, my mother sent me to him to find out, well, is this the correct course of study that you want to pursue? So he has been there my whole life for me. He wrote recommendations for me, for anybody in my family. And so Calvin Smith will be certainly missed. The last time I was at his house, his wife cooked this fantastic meal. I kept saying, I can't compete with that because I don't cook, but Janine can cook. She can burn. So I just want to say to Aunt Janine, our prayers are with you and Christopher and McDonald and the entire family. And please know that you are in our prayers. And as I said before, this show is dedicated to the memory of Mr. Calvin Smith, my mentor, my mother's friend, and somebody who led the PLP. He put that campaign together in 1998. He was a campaign manager. Just an awesome, awesome individual. And I know that there are other people that have a lot to say about him, but that's my Calvin Smith. Okay, today I think is fitting. We're going to discuss the importance of empowerment, particularly economic empowerment or the lack of economic empowerment. And all over the world, we see the ravages of this coronavirus, but the people who are particularly vulnerable are those who are economically disadvantaged. The significant differences highlighted by this virus begs the question, how can we be more involved in the economy of our countries? And one article written by Danielle, and I cannot pronounce this lady's name, but it's Kurtzleben for anybody who wants to look it up. And she's a political reporter assigned to the National Public Radio Washington desk. And she appears on NPR, writes for the web, and is a regular on the NPR politics podcasts. She is covering the 2020 presidential election with particular focus on economic policy and gender politics. And her article, Job Losses Higher Among People of Color During COVID Pandemic, caught my eye. And I do know that the government government in Bermuda is talking about this 6-week unemployment running out. And if people need supplemental benefits, and they're to contact the Department of Financial Assistance on the first floor of Global House, and the number, as just was said, is 297-786. Oh my gracious, I think it's 1. Okay. But as I said, the article by Danielle caught my eye. It noted that March jobs data showed a number of racial and ethical disparities or ethnic disparities of the economic impact of the coronavirus. For example, in March, the share of whites who were unemployed fell by 1.1%. That rate fell significantly more for black people, which was 1.6% drop, and Asian Americans 1.7%, Latinos 2.1%. And similar patterns showed up in other industries hurt most by the corona slowdown. At one point, there were more than 450,000 job losses in leisure and hospitality, and I'm talking about in the United States. I did try to contact the Department of Statistics this week. I'm not going to say anything about the phone system, but I wasn't able to make that contact. A category that includes hotels and restaurants, blacks, Asians, and Latino workers were disproportionately represented in the hotel industry. And so that may have some significance or correlation with Bermuda. In addition, another survey from the left-leaning Data for Process found that 45% of black workers in America lost jobs or had their hours cut, compared to 31% for white workers, and samples were not large enough to break out other racial and ethnic groups. Now, in Bermuda, there are similar implications surrounding disparity. In an article in the Royal Gazette on focus on race, they said to focus on race as much as the economy. So there is an inherent recognition that the economy in Bermuda needs to be addressed, the economy particularly for those who are disadvantaged or less advantaged. My guest today is someone who I actually taught. Didn't I teach you? Warwick Sack.
Warwick Sack, VVV.
He was always a good student, and he was related to my husband. I didn't know that at the time. I wasn't married, but this young man always impacted me in terms of his ability to go and find information, because remember, I taught drama, I taught English language, I taught communications, I taught debate, and I remember him specifically as being one who was able to articulate his thoughts really, really well. And he always impressed me as a young man who was going to make a difference. He describes himself as an affiliate marketer, a multimedia artist, a technologist, a futurist, a precious metal advocate, and blockchain and digital asset enthusiast, and being a self-directed student of past and present global monetary systems and the current day blockchain innovations. His name is Richard Augustus. He was featured on local radio, and he has been conducting town meetings all over Bermuda to share his knowledge of blockchain and digital asset knowledge. Now, Richard, Mr. Augustus,
yes.
I'm very happy to have you on the show today. Thank you for being a part of the Need to Lead, and welcome.
Well, I'm pleased to be here. I have been here before and speaking to people, but it's one of my passions to learn. I study a lot. I bought a few friends along my books.
Right.
It may have to lean on them a little bit, but yeah, it's been a lifelong journey.
Well, we know, I already admitted that statistics and math and all of that was not really my forte. I always had to reach out to somebody else like Kelvin Smith. And trust me, Shelby got an A, so did I. I'm very proud to say that I got an A in statistics. And whenever I had anything to do with math in college, even in my doctoral program, Dina Lister was one of the people, was one of my go-to people at St. John's University. So I admit it's not my forte, but I'm smart enough to find somebody who knows what they're talking about. Now, Richard reached out to me a couple years ago now, and I actually went to his business establishment, and I tried to take a couple of courses. I'm not the best student. He tried to get me involved in, what was that at the time?
It was, I'm not going to mention any companies today, but basically it was Gold Acquisition.
Gold.
Acquisition Company. And it was more about, centered around, the basis of it was based on financial education.
Right.
One of my sayings that I say, if you don't earn gold, you know not money nor history. So you have to study history and have appreciation for precious metals.
Guys, if you are not, savvy, economically, today you may have a little bit of an eye opener, because I left Richard's office with all these books that he asked me to read. I mean, there's no way in the world that I can find the time to read all that and understand it. But I did go back a couple of times. We actually tried to open an account, and for some reason it got blocked. Whatever.
We'll get back there.
But Richard, okay, anyway, you describe yourself as an affiliate marketer. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm an agent and a customer for companies that offer products and services that fit into my financial education passion. So I'm a consumer of these products and services, and I act as an advertising agent for these companies to find other customers and other affiliates who also want to add to the company's customer base. And so I do earn fees based on these marketing efforts. In effect, it's a real business.
Yeah, you did tell me that. You said Shangri-La. I'm like,
it's a
Richard,
real business without brick and mortar, right? It's online. It's low cost. It's low overhead, and so in a way, business is just standing in the way of movement of money. So you're standing in the way of the movement of money. I am a I am not a seller. I am a teller. I tell people. I don't sell anything, really. I tell people, I make recommendations to check out certain companies, and if they so choose to be affiliated or a customer, and then the company will reward me for such. Businesses simply finding a way to make profit in that transaction. You know,
I just wish I had more time to do all of this stuff. But okay, so what role do you play as a multimedia artist? You showed me a little bit this week. But
so this is a hobby of mine. This is enough to do with the financial education piece. I mainly do, digital graphic art, video creation, social media content. And this is something, I know what looks good, basically.
Yes.
And so, I guess it's my artistry coming out. And I just translate it into the digital domain. I mean, there's graphic art programs on your phone you could even get that are lightweight, and you could produce Instagram photos and posters. And I do things to market my brand. I haven't monetized this yet to help other people, but we could talk.
Right. We are talking. We got that
but
going.
In any case, it's a good idea to have multiple streams of income. And so I might monetize that at some point in time.
Okay. So what are your thoughts on Black economic empowerment?
Well, it's important in some ways. I mean, I subscribe to the teachings of Dr. Claude Anderson, who wrote this great book called Powernomics.
Yes, I have that.
Yes. And so we have to be the earners, have ownership and control of the means of production and businesses. Okay? I love my little college university degree, but the fine print says now go out and find a job. Right? That's the fine print.
Okay.
They didn't really teach me how to run a business. They didn't teach me how to invest. There was no money 101. They told me how to go get a good job working for somebody else. If you don't build your own life and your own business, somebody will hire you to build theirs.
That's true. That's
right.
True.
And so we have to be the captains of our own ship, and we have to come together as a people to have ownership and control of businesses, both virtual, our virtual world, and physical. Because we see a virtualization of them as everything we see now, including money, and which we'll talk about later. Virtual, online. Technology improves everything it touches, and so even in business, we have to be proactive and be progressive as a people, and don't be so complacent working for that linear income. Because as we see with this COVID-19, we see a shrink. The job market is shrinking, and it's been shrinking even before COVID because of technology. And so COVID has kind of put a magnifying glass and kind of quickened the pace on everything that's happened. The world is changing really, really fast, and so you have to be very aggressive with your education to stay ahead of the curve. Yeah.
Okay, so we also note that you're a precious metals advocate and blockchain and digital asset enthusiast. What do you mean by that?
I'm what you call a girl bug. In other words, I'm going to keep on bugging you until you get some gold. Right? No, but it's a girl bug. It's a term that it basically means a sound money advocate. Because you have to understand history. Even from biblical times, gold and silver, I believe, is God's money. Right? From Genesis to Revelation, it's mentioned. Even in ancient time, and the further you look back in the past, the more you can see into the future. And so you have to understand that the ancient Greeks, ancient Romans, they had gold as money. Even America was founded on sound money. Old cowboy movies, guys just put a bag of gold on to get his whiskey and stuff. And then we had gold coins. The US dollar was then, the real money was held in vaults, and they had receipts. The term as good as gold, my money is as good as gold, or your currency is good as gold. They were restrained by the amount of gold they had in the vaults. The real money was held in the vaults. And the receipts. It's kind of like when you take your shirt in to the cleaners. The value's in the shirt, not in the little claim check that you get. Our currency is like claim checks. Well, actually not anymore, because in 1971 everything changed. We came completely off the gold standard because the US dollar was the world's reserve currency. Up until today it still is. But we now deal with a fiat currency world. And the fiat word fiat is a Latin term meaning let it be. Well, there's only one entity that can say that, let it be, and that's the Almighty, right?
Right.
This is man's money, and so let it be. It's by government decree that this thing that it should be called a currency. There's a difference between currency and money. When my friends come up to me and say, "Oh, I have no money," I say, "You're right. You have a bunch of currency in your pocket. You don't have money. You have currency." So it's all about defining these terms. Yeah, and so it goes back to, and I could go on and on about that, but I invite people to do the earned research. And I'm a disclaimer, I give no financial advice. Anything I say today should not be construed as financial advice. Any financial advice, you could see your own financial advisor. But I'm going to tell you what I do, and you could do your own research.
Well, that's what you did with me, and you left me with all these books to read. I mean,
Yeah.
I got through a couple of them, but some of those books were just too heavy. And
Yeah.
without somebody like Calvin Smith interpreting, I was just
Sure.
like lost. So, I depend on you. But how did you first become involved in financial matters, and why?
Okay, so it started by happenstance. I was involved with affiliate type marketing before, very long time ago, and I ended up at a very strange libertarian conference with my wife at the time in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was filled with rooms of people that believe in the right to bear arms, and they were anti-IRS, and they were anti-Federal Reserve. Very strange bunch. I was the fly in the milk, if you can know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Right.
These are people that believe in the open carry. These guys were very strange folks. But I happened to meet the author of a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Met this guy. Okay? And this reads like a detective novel. It chronicles the history of central banking in the United States.
Excuse me, I'll stop for just a minute. I want people, this is the 5th edition. If you were to see this book, Richard, just tell me, how many pages is that book?
The audiobook version of it is 8 hours long, but I would say it's about 600 pages or so.
Just turn to the back, the last page.
Yeah,
What does it say?
605.
Yeah.
Yeah, 608.
So this is this thick book, everybody, with fine print that Richard is saying. I don't know where I will find the time to read it. I guess I would scan it, but go ahead. So you met the author of this book, and name it again.
The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Okay.
And this is where a banking cartel was formulated. A cartel is a group of businesses with common interests to create something, cooperate together to benefit all of the parties, right? Mm-hmm. And so that cartel is now known as the Federal Reserve Bank. It's not federal, first of all. It's a private entity. And a lot of people don't know that. I'm getting into some deep stuff now.
You're
again,
right. I mean,
do your own research. It's not federal. And there's no reserves, by the way, either. And it's not a bank either. So the whole naming convention is quite deceiving. But anyway, this reads like I said, the further you look back in the past, the more you can see into the future. And so this book is a historical book, but it reads like a detective novel. It talks about the formation of this cartel or this entity called the Federal Reserve. And there's other central banks, and there's other central banks around too. Mm-hmm. But not to get into conspiracy fact, let's talk some conspiracy theories. Let's talk about conspiracy facts today. Let's talk about facts. And a lot of this stuff I was not taught in college and university about this stuff. Like this history is not taught.
Right.
I just didn't know. And so it's an interesting book. It's an interesting read. But I liken to listen to audiobooks now. It's still like the audiobook version is like 8 hours long. But again, the elephant is you eat an elephant by taking one bite at a time. And so you have to deprogram yourself from all the programming and indoctrination you get through society, right?
So what did that book teach you? Like, what were the ahas from that book?
Well, basically, it's a cartel. It's a cartel of bankers that control the monetary system in the United States of America. And oddly enough, our currency is pegged to the U.S. dollar. So the term, whenever the U.S. catches a cold, we catch the flu, or worse, rings true in this case. So here we have a situation. We feel it as here's the ills of this thing. Basically, it's called inflation or higher prices. That's what I've learned. The more they print or they create, the less it's worth. And if you're old enough, you remember when we were younger, I mean, a bag of chips was like maybe 50 cents. It depends how old you are, how cheaper it gets. But is it the fault of the chips or is it the fault of the money? A lot of people look at it's greedy business owners. It's greedy, but it's the fault. You're looking at the symptoms. It's not the problem. The problem is your money. It's not backed by anything. There's no intrinsic value in our currency today. Intrinsic value. And I believe in intrinsic value. That's why I buy intrinsic assets, which is, I go back to gold and silver. It's always been worth something to somebody. There's been about 3,000 fiat currencies in the world, in world history, and they've all failed. Every single one of them. And so a lot of people say, the US dollar's immune to that. Oh, really? Oh, really? Okay. They've all failed. Okay, the US dollar's special. And the world's reserve currency status has changed over time. It was not always the US. It was not always the U.S. Before that, it was the Great British Sterling Pound. Before that, it was in Spain. And then before that was the Portuguese, the world's reserve currency. And so it's the United States' turn.
Well, I'm really interested. Go back for me.
Go back.
And I'm trying to. So you ended up at this conference, but
conference,
why?
right.
Yeah, well, why? Yeah. So how did you get involved in this, and why?
Involved.
Why?
Well, it was that particular entity promised education and investment products, right? And so we went on a fact-finding mission to find out what these people were all about. And then along the way, it was a conference, and they had books like this and other books. Another book I have is a coffee table book called Money. It's a coffee table book with brilliant pictures of ancient currency, like the greenback. And every state had their own currency note. Or the banks issued these currency notes in exchange for the real money, which was the gold, which was held. The gold was cumbersome to carry around, and so they had these pieces of paper that represented the real money. And so up until 1971, the U.S. dollar was backed by gold. In 1971, President Nixon, who's not one of the best presidents of the time. He may have worse ones since then, not mention any names, but he decoupled the US dollar from gold completely. And we basically broke a promise to the world that was established in the Bretton Woods Convention in 1933. In 1933, the world got together and agreed that the dollar would be the world's reserve currency, because the US had all the gold at the time. Mm-hmm. And they were restricted how much currency they can produce. But since then, we have an elastic currency. They can create as much as they want. These stimulus checks that the U.S. is producing, there's no free lunch. It's got to be paid for somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so how do you do that? Well, it goes over this. And some of my other teachers will go into it's kind of complex. It means a bond issuance. You issue a bond, which is basically stealing prosperity out of the future to live better today. Deficit spending, it's called, right? You're borrowing prosperity out of the future to live better. And we see with this COVID-19 thing that is happening almost with every country.
Right.
I love my government, though. I'm sorry.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not getting good there.
Okay, so you just got involved in this. It was an investment kind of thing, and you ended up in Arizona. Yeah. And since then, it's been a financial journey. Yeah. So, and it's evolved. And so I know you reached out to me a few years ago and sort of got me to think about investments and to look at money differently and to say, look, Shangri-La, instead of trying to put your money in the bank, well, we'll deal with that.
Yeah, that's not financial advice.
Right. All right. Okay. So tell us today, you've been giving, if you've just joined us, you're listening to Magic 102.7, and I'm your host, Dr. Shangri-La Durham Thompson, and I'm talking to one of my past brilliant students, Mr. Richard Augustus. and my husband's cousin. All right. And Richard, you've been working today with blockchain innovations.
Yeah.
So how should we best use this information? Tell us a little bit more about blockchain.
See, the study of this whole money thing, and I was not always an advocate of Bitcoin and blockchain and these digital currency asset classes because of the intrinsic value question. Like, there's no real intrinsic value in these digital currencies. But they do have one key feature, and let's use Bitcoin, which is the first one. It's limited in supply, right? Just like gold, I call Bitcoin gold 2.0. It's a digital gold almost. Whereas gold was created by the creator and the universe, and it's limited in supply, and there's people from ancient time called alchemists that try to create it.
I'm reading the book, The Alchemist. I'm just reading it, right? He's changing iron and stuff into gold.
Trying to.
Yeah. And so there's this guy that's in the desert, and he's saying, I'm becoming part of the earth. And
you can't do it.
My son gave me that book just about 3 days ago. So I'm like 3/4 of the way through.
Or it takes an incredible amount of energy to do it, but it's not cost effective.
Right.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should, right? Or you can, because it costs too much. It's an incredible amount of energy it takes to create a natural current element.
Break it down so that everybody is following.
So basically, gold comes from the creator.
Right.
The periodic table of elements, there's only 4 things on there that can be used as money. That's gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and I think something called rhodium. I might be incorrect. But gold and silver are the main 2. Mm-hmm. They're the most popular ones. Now, silver is an industrial metal. Gold a little bit too. But for millennia, it's been the basis and the pursuit of those who want to conquer, the conquerors. I'm getting into the colonialism thing now. They steal everything. The gold that I'm buying now was probably stolen out of Africa, to tell you the truth. And I'm just getting it back. Give me my money back. That's my reparations right there. God. I want my gold. But see, we'll touch on that later maybe. But anyway.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's deep. It's the more you study, it's like a rabbit hole almost. It's like an Alice in Wonderland type deal. And you're going to meet some strange concepts. And so you have to change the way you think. But anyway.
So how can the ordinary citizen use blockchain?
Well, right now, it's used right now as a speculative thing. Most of us, I'm in a group right now where we speculate. We basically trade, buy and sell cryptos to increase our US dollar position. We're buying low, selling high, and cashing out because when we go to the grocery store nowadays, they don't want Bitcoin. They look at you like you're crazy, right? Bitcoin and digital currencies is not prevalent in this country right now. However, there are some European countries in the Far East, in the Asian Pacific region, there are communities using digital currencies right now. And actually, nation states are starting to explore digital national currencies. Remember how it was when COVID first came out, they said, the money is dirty. The paper money might have the disease on it. We don't accept. And there's some businesses that don't even want your paper money, your paper currency. I have to correct my language. It's called currency. It's not money. And so you have governments trying to get into, put their national currency on the blockchain. You may be seeing some pilot programs coming out here in Bermuda, maybe. I know our premier was very key on this. He's a technologist himself, and so he's been exploring this whole thing. And that was part of, I was one of the early people to study blockchain. Here's one of my teachers, this guy named Andreas Antonopoulos. He's a Greek person, and he just does lectures around the world. So basically a digital nomad. He basically travels and get paid for lectures about Bitcoin, blockchain, and Ethereum, which is another type of It's like Bitcoin's cousin. It's a different type of currency. It's a digital currency.
All those older people that are listening today, I wonder if they...
Because we were born into this fiat currency world. And so we got this herd mentality where because a dollar today bought stuff yesterday is going to buy stuff tomorrow. And my neighbor does it. This is what we know. We go to work, we put in efforts, and we get this token of economic energy, which is called a dollar. And that's what we know. And that's what we do as a people. And we have to get educated to get a good job. And that's what we know. And we're only here for 80, 90 years of life. But people forget. People forget their history. And it's not taught. And so for the common person right now to get involved with blockchain, I mean, right now we're in our early stages. There's no real use case for the common person, the layman, to really get involved in it. Except what I do. Except for being speculative like I do. You have to learn certain things. Remember when cell phones first came out? You had to learn this. When computers first came out, we had to learn this. Right? We had to learn how to use this stuff, and we evolved into it. But right now, it's not hit mainstream quite yet, but it's coming.
So what are the testimonies that you can share about blockchain to this point?
Buy low, sell high. I mean, I have made money made some gains. Now, I shouldn't say money because I still hold some cryptocurrency, and I'm just watching it. It's very volatile against the US dollar. It moves very wildly against the US dollar.
Explain what that means.
Which means that one Bitcoin, when I first heard about Bitcoin, it was like maybe $600. $600 for one Bitcoin. I seen it go from that to $19,000 for one Bitcoin, drop back down to $3,000, and right now it's come back up, and now it's around 12.
So some people have made a lot of money off of this.
Some people, imagine this, some people have got involved when it was pennies.
Right.
Pennies. Mm-hmm. We have some 20-year-old millionaires out there in the world that have basically bought a lot of it when it was really, really cheap against the US dollar, and now they're sitting on millions of dollars. But it's not I don't want Bitcoin. I don't really want gold. I don't really want dollars. I want the stuff that those things can get me.
Oh, Lord.
I want the stuff. I want the house, the life. Mm-hmm. I was listening to a guy last night who's affiliate market as well. He says, somebody asked him, do you work? He said, no, I don't work. I make money. So that's what I'm aspiring to. I don't want to work. I want to make money. And the way how I make money is by helping other people. Right? And you
help those people to help other people. Because that's what you said to me.
Right. So it's all about helping people. Yeah. So your net worth has a correlation toward your network. So the bigger you grow your network, that can translate into your network. And it's easy now with the tools like I use the internet as a tool, Facebook, Instagram. Like everybody looks rich on Facebook and Instagram. They're putting up stuff that they bought on credit to make them look like they're wealthy, but they're not. The rap videos, for example. Right. I know there's some people in my family that, they're into the rap game, and they borrow money, they throw it up in the air, and they look like they're. But guess what? No. You're not financially free. You look like you are, but you're not. You work like you. It's all about image. But I use that image to promote a product or services and get in the way of the movement of money. But back to the blockchain question, I think it's all about right now, it's all about education, is learning how to, and maybe in some way being a speculator, trying to buy low and sell high. Because again,
the young people are getting into this now. Because my son had this conversation with me last night. It's like, Mama, how much should I invest in this? You're asking the wrong person. I don't know. But in terms of investment, besides blockchain, like what other ways are there for our young people to be empowered, particularly black men? I'm saying black men, blacks. Period.
It's business. It's business ownership and cooperative economics. I think. We have to come together. We have to, this crab in a bucket mentality. We have to lift each other up and start practicing, group economics. That's what Dr. Claude Anderson talks about a lot, group economics. You know, he talks about, you know, little China, little Italy. There's no little Africa anywhere.
Right. So what do we do?
We need to be earnest and control of businesses. We have to earn businesses. We have to get into entrepreneurship. That's what we have to get into, and keep buying. You know, buy from ourselves.
So why do you think historically blacks, there seems to be this huge financial inequity between blacks and whites?
Yeah.
Like what, in terms of your history and going back and looking, where does that stem from?
All,
except they went to Africa and they took the
yes,
girl and they
I was going to say that it's a 400-year head start,
right.
basically, right?
I just saw that last
It's a
night too.
400-year
Ron
head
Pender just showed me something
And
last
so,
night.
you know, that's the crux of it all, and we see the fights. We see what's going on now. It's come to a head, kind of. COVID again has magnified this whole racial thing, right? You had the march on Washington again yesterday, and you know we're still fighting. We're still fighting for equality, but I think we have to be proactive and take our equality back.
So how do we do that? In your
entrepreneurship, it starts one day at a time. It's all about ownership and control of assets. It's hard in Bermuda. Land is hard to come by in Bermuda because of the price and the scarcity. So it may mean the pooling of assets, cooperative working together to earn and control means of production, right? Not just in this space that I'm in. I'm into this financial thing, gold, silver. I'm into a little bit of trading as well, currency trading. There's a whole market where the dollar or the Japanese yen or the Great British Pound, there's a battle between these two currencies. And you ever been to the bank where there's an exchange rate?
Yes.
Well, trading on Forex is taking advantage of that exchange rate. You're profiting by buying low and selling when that difference changes. That's called the Forex market. And so I traded for a little bit. It's a 24-hour-a-day market, and it's about learning. It's kind of like the blockchain thing. You have to learn this stuff. Or you could get involved with what's called custodial trading, where the experts trade for you. But again, that comes with fees.
But tell me this, do you think anybody in Bermuda has made a profit significantly from investments in Bitcoin and...
I don't know of anybody right now. There's a group that I'm in, and they're very secretive about their holdings. I mean, there's some people. There's a concept in the blockchain market called going to the moon, where Bitcoin going to the moon means that Bitcoin today is like 11,000. Going to the moon means Bitcoin is 1 million, and so imagine holding some Bitcoin when it goes to the moon. That's what you call investing. But scared money doesn't make money, so you have to get involved. You have to start small, start learning. I use the internet. YouTube is my best friend. You could learn so much.
Now you sent me 1 million YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to take the time to sit down and actually.
What I find myself doing is I have to turn off Hollywood TV. And it's kind of like reading a book.
Yeah,
that's old school, like reading a book. And right now I supplement my reading by listening to the audiobook and reading at the same time.
So do you think the average person has I don't want to say they don't have time to do this, but if you, for instance, how are you getting you said you're a teller, not a seller.
Right.
So people who want to know, how can you get the information to them, and how can you make it palatable so that people like me who aren't statistically savvy can say, okay, I'm learning something here. I'm going to make a little investment here because I'm scared. You know what I mean?
Right.
I made an investment and gave back my money.
I have to simplify it, basic terms. I mean, I have to simplify it. I find some of these systems can be very complex, but I make it simple. You keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you got, basically. So you have to do something different.
Okay, well, let's see. Richard came in here this morning. He said, Shangri-La, let's take a minute and let's go through this script.
Yeah.
Now, I did teach him. I I taught at WorkSac and I taught theater. And he came in with the script and he said, okay, let's do this. And I said, okay, Richard, I really don't know what this is about. He said, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Okay, so I'm gonna start and you're going to.
But let me just say, this was published in 1957.
Okay.
1957 in Britain on a magazine called Punch Magazine.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, because I was thinking that you actually wrote it.
No, I didn't
right?
write it. It was
Okay.
published.
All right.
It's not
okay.
my work.
Okay. So what are banks for?
To make money.
For the customers?
For the banks.
Why doesn't bank advertising mention this?
It would not be in good taste, but it's mentioned by implication in reference to the reserves of 249 million or thereabouts. That's the money that they've made.
Out of customers?
I suppose so.
You also mentioned assets of 500 million or thereabouts. Have they made that too?
Not exactly. That's the money they use to make money.
I see. And they keep it in a safe place somewhere?
Not at all. They lend it to customers.
Then they haven't got it?
No.
Then how is it an asset?
They maintain that it would be if they got it back.
But if they must have some money in a safe somewhere.
Yes, usually about 500,000 or thereabouts. It's called liabilities.
But if they've got it, how can they be liable for it?
Because it isn't theirs.
Then why do they have it?
It's been lent to them by customers.
You mean customers lend money to banks?
In effect, they put money into their accounts, so it's really lent to the banks.
And what do the banks do with it?
Lend it to other customers.
But you said that money they lend to other people were assets.
Pause.
Looking for your page. Just yes. Then assets, liabilities must be the same thing. You can't really say that.
Line.
You can't really say that.
You can't really say that.
Okay, but you've just said it. If I put $100 into my account, the bank is liable to have to pay it back, so it's liabilities. But if they go and they lend it to someone else, and he's liable to have to pay it back, so it's assets. It's the same $100, isn't it?
Yes, but
then it cancels out. That means banks haven't really any money at all.
theoretically...
Never mind theoretically. And if they haven't any money, where did they get their reserves of 249 million or thereabouts?
I told you, that's the money that they've made.
How?
Well, when they lend you $100 to someone, they charge them interest.
How much?
Well, it depends on the bank rate. Say 5.5%. That's their profit.
Why isn't it my profit? Isn't it my money?
It's the theory of banking practice.
When I lend them my $100, why don't I charge them interest?
You do.
Really? How much?
It depends on the bank rate. Say 0.5% or less.
For real?
But that's only if you're not going to draw the money out again.
But of course I'm going to draw the money out again. If I hadn't wanted to draw it out again, I'd have buried it in my garden, wouldn't I?
They wouldn't like you to draw it out again.
Why not? If I keep it, then you say it's a liability. Wouldn't they be glad if I reduce their liabilities by removing it?
No, because if you remove it, they can't lend it to anybody else.
But if I wanted to remove it, they'd have to let me.
Certainly.
But suppose they've already lent it to another customer.
Then they'll let you have some other customer's money.
But suppose he wants his too. Then they'd have to let me have it?
Oh, you're being perfectly obtuse here.
I think I'm being accurate. What if everyone wanted their money at once?
It's a theory of banking practice that they would never would.
So what banks bank on is not having to meet their commitments.
I wouldn't say that.
Naturally. Well, if there's nothing else you can think to tell me.
No, quite so. Now you can go off and open a bank account.
Just one last question.
Of course.
Wouldn't I do better to go off and open up a bank?
So this illustrates, it's the whole lending practice of the banks. It's called fractional reserve banking. And I love my banking institution. Look it up, fractional reserve banking. And so one of my teachers, I must mention this, talking about simplification of complex theories. there's a gentleman who's friend of Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki wrote this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I got that.
Okay?
My son read it too.
Right? This book here, he has a friend that's a gold enthusiast like myself called Mike Maloney. Mike Maloney. Mm-hmm. Mike Maloney was the dyslexic child coming up. And he, now that he's grown, he has a uncanny ability to take complex systems and making it very, very, very simple. So he breaks down this book called Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver. Really is it's not a guide really, it's a historical book. It's kind of like The Creature from Jekyll Island, but it's smaller. It's easy to read.
It's just...
But he has a video series. I'm a visual person. I need visual aids. And so I use YouTube a lot to understand this. If you Google Hidden Secrets of Money, Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. It's a 10-part series, 10 parts. So I would say turn off World News Tonight. They're just talking about the orange guy and stuff like that. Don't turn it off. And listen to...
The orange guy. I love it.
Okay, turn that off because it's all negativity. And the best investment you can make is an investment in your own financial education. That's what he says. So you get deprogrammed and you learn about this stuff. And so that 10-part series goes from ancient Africa all the way to Bitcoin and blockchain and everything in between. So it talks about what we just talked about, the fractional reserve. It talks about money or currency creation. It talks about, it gets into some deep stuff. Listen, every bullet that's shot, every bomb that's dropped has less to do with religion and it all has to do with money. It's all about economics at the end of the day. It's all about
somebody's
money.
Buying the tanks.
Somebody is buying, yes.
The world is making money from making...
Here's the thing: if you don't want to play by the rules of them, you'll be singing the Gap Band. You dropped the bomb on me, right? Baby, you dropped the bomb on me. And so and they villainize almost every country that does that. In the name of terror. It's a whole bunch of stuff, but do your own research. Anyway.
Okay, so look, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Magic 102.7 with your host, Shangri-La Durham Thompson, and I'm talking to Mr. Richard Augustus, a wonderful financial enthusiast who may be creating some opportunities for someone out there who's listening, who's willing to do the work, turn off the TV, and get some of their economic empowerment through actually doing some research. Now, Richard, you sent me, like I said, several videos, and I attempted to watch a few. They're a little bit deep. But with the hidden secrets of money, what are some of the key aha moments in there that would make people want to invest?
Yeah, the biggest aha for me is currency is really created out of nothing. It's not backed by anything. It's backed by faith in the people that we give it to it. We give the money its power by its faith. And when the faith dwindles away, you see regime changes, you see unrest, you see a whole bunch of symptoms that you think are the problem. Wrong answer. You're seeing the symptoms. You cannot fix the social problems until you fix the money that caused the problems in the first place. I have to write that down.
That's deep.
I have to write that down.
Right.
So yeah, what you're seeing is symptoms, right? And it's somewhat exact. It's the COVID-19 is the pin that it's a black swan event that kind of pricked the pin of something that I believe that was going to happen anyway. I think there will be what we call a currency reset. They're going to reset. They're going to redo everything. They're just going to redo it. And I think that what they made, I can't look into the future too much, but what I think they may try to do is roll out what's called a digital dollar. The danger of that digital dollar, I think, is they'll be able to track your movements. I was talking to an Adventist.
No, that sounds like a conspiracy theorist.
I was talking to an Adventist brother.
I
was talking to an Adventist brother, and happy Sabbath to. They're probably not listening, but happy Sabbath. There's a saying: without the market beat, you can't buy nor sell.
Right.
They're saying that digital thing is the mark. You can't buy or sell without that. And they could track you.
And that's what my son is saying, talking about biblical.
Right. The tying and how it all ties in together.
Right.
And it's.
So if you don't have, my son keeps saying, I can put this chip in you, and so then you don't have to carry money around. You'll just put your finger there, and but you see some of that already happening, because one company talked about how they paid their people or whatever, and so if they want services from the vending machine for their company, the chip was there, and they just go and touch it, and they pay it. It's
kind of scary.
So it's scary. And if you don't get the chip, the mark of the beast kind of thing, then
it's very strange. But in the meantime, I look for anomalies in the system in between. So I try to take advantage of the changes. Right? You have to see vision to see what's going down as something is coming up. Right? Undervalued assets versus overvalued assets.
All right. Well, I guess we're going a little bit over, but look. You sent another video called Who Controls Our Money. I read something that my son sent me about the control of money. But tell us, who controls our money, and why is it important to know that?
That video series done by this Australian guy, Diago. He's a video blogger. Who controls our money? Basically, it's the central bankers, basically. The Federal Reserve, the World Reserve currency guys. They control it. Again, the Bermuda dollar's pegged to it. I mean, we do a good job here, and you probably should get somebody from the BMA to explain themselves, sort of thing. I mean, but they do a good job of
policing.
They do a good job, but I will say that we're pegged to the U.S. dollar. Every time the U.S. dollar does that, and we're one of the most expensive countries.
What? People couldn't see you.
No, basically
drops and falls,
the ebbs and flows, like the purchasing power of your dollar. I mean, we feel it even more because we're just one of the most expensive, if not, I think we're the most expensive place to live on the planet. And so to have a dollar that doesn't quite buy what it used to, kind of hurts us even more. We have to work twice as hard. We have to put the mama to work, the son to work, everybody to work just to live.
Right.
Back in the day, it just took the one. Remember the many wives used to stay at home?
Right. Got you.
It doesn't happen anymore. But that's because they defaulted the dollar. But anyway, who controls our money? And he does look him up on Cold Fusion TV on YouTube. The Go-Go Outrade from Australia. He's got a great speaking voice. Does great videos. Yeah.
Okay, so all those people that don't have access to all of this, I wonder what they're thinking today, but you've conducted workshops for the BUT and workshops for the BIU. I think I went to one of them where you were talking. And tell me, what other workshops have you conducted and how were they received?
Yeah, the one for the BUT teachers was great. It was breakout session, so it was a few people in there. I did some things for the BPSU.
Right.
I did one for Bermuda College once. It was a small with their people. And this was the early days when we were trying to educate our people for the jobs that were supposed to be coming, which is on hold right now. Nothing's really happening.
Right.
But I will say that this whole industry is very. There's some bad players in here, bad actors. There's some people taking advantage of this whole blockchain revolution. They're full of hot air. And so I've come across a few of those people. You can't really know if they had good intentions or not. But I think there is an industry to be held with this whole fintech thing. It's on hold right now, but I think technology is still progressing. We will see what happens, but stay tuned. I think you're going to see some fast changes happen. But yeah.
So when we're coming down to it, what real advice would you give for the ordinary people to help empower them economically? And I'm thinking not just the young people. The young people have got a hold on it. I mean, my son's engaged with somebody from China who's advising him. They're online, you meet people online. And so they're saying, he said to me last night, Mama, look what she made. She put in 10,000 and right now she's up to 31,000 and this was in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my goodness, but this is what they're doing, these young people. And so my son's like, I need to invest more. But for the older ones like me, right? I put in an investment. I got mine back. I mean, I took it right back out.
Right.
Actually, they sent it to me. So, because I'm questioning.
Right.
But for older people, is there any gain in this, or is this something that they just need to let go of? Their time has gone, and so they just encourage the younger people to become financial viable. What would be your recommendation to the ordinary Bermudian?
I would say find a young person, take you by the hand, and lead you through lead you through it.
What for? What? Why?
For especially something simple. I go back to the best thing you could do. I mean, I try not to give financial advice, but acquiring some gold and silver is the best thing you could do. And that's what I'm doing.
So what? So these people, when they pass, they're going to leave this to their children.
Yeah,
is that what?
It's basically holding. It's to me, as inflation affects your dollar, your purchasing power
diminishes.
Erodes.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Gold has always maintained its purchasing power.
Okay.
Here's an analogy. Loaf of bread, for example. In 1975, $1 in the United States will get you about 4 loaves of bread, right?
Mm-hmm.
A gram of gold, that's a small little piece, about the size of my thumbnail, could buy you about 4 loaves of bread. Today, that same gram of gold will get you like 28 loaves of bread. 28.
And the dollar.
But how much a dollar can get you?
Nothing.
In Bermuda, you get the crust.
Right. Because the bread's like $7 or $8.
And so it will hold what you've worked for all your life. It will not all. I don't put all my eggs in that basket. I don't.
But so where will people get this gold, and where are they going to put it?
Talk to an affiliate that knows about gold. There's a few of them out there. If they're posting. Affiliates, get out there and post that you're a gold person. You're a gold person. You're affiliated. You're an affiliate. Mm-hmm. You are, but you need to get started. So your net worth is determined by your network, and so we network this thing.
So we gotta network.
Get to networking. Get to being a teller. Tell the story. Get people investing in their own financial education. Turn off the reruns, because that's all that's playing right now. Turn off the TV and get on YouTube. Get your if you have a smart TV, internet access, it's required now. Most of my people that I know that are like my mama's age, they do have the internet. But stop looking at funny cat videos and learn about the difference between currency and money. Because it's not taught.
So what do you say to the older people? You're saying to them it's about inheritance, right?
Yeah.
Because other people that have money have it to give to their offspring, so that when they don't have a harder time. And people with money,
right,
who are financially secure, what that means is they don't just have it for their lifetime; they have it to give to their offspring.
Sure.
So for those people who are older and you want to leave a legacy of some kind of financial security for your family, they can still invest. It's never too late.
And that's the thing.
Because you can make money in 2 weeks, depending on the investment.
If we practice that inheritance thing and we build, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children.
Right.
And so we have to start thinking like that. We have to start thinking like that. And don't be complacent. My riches are in heaven. Yes, okay, fine. But yeah, get your spirit right too. Right. Get that right, because the streets of heaven are paved with gold.
Well,
if it's good enough for the streets of heaven, it's good enough for my pocket in this life.
All right, Richard Augustus. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to your cousin, TJ, my son. So because he's talking, like I said, he's talking to somebody over there in China. He needs to talk to somebody right here in Bermuda who's making a difference. And if you've joined us today on The Need to Lead, on Magic 102.7 on The Need to Lead, you've been listening to Mr. Richard Augustus, and he's been talking about economic empowerment. So, and I hope that you've gotten something out of this today. I mean, he's talked about currency, he's talked about money, he's talked about the value of gold and silver. He's talked about investments, and there's a lot that we don't quite know, but he's advised turn off the television. I have all of these videos. So if anybody wants to reach out, Richard sent them to me. I didn't acquire them on my own, but I'm taking the time to look through these videos and to see what is going on. And like he said, it's about networking. So we've started a network. We started like a couple of years ago, but we're really getting this up and going. And we want to encourage other people to become a part of it.
Snowball rolling.
Yes.
You ever took you seen the cartoon where the guy takes a little pebble, a snowball on top of the hill?
Right.
Bugs Bunny, and he pushes it over and it gets bigger and bigger.
Right.
That's what happens with affiliate marketing. It gets big, you can't stop it.
Right.
That snowball will crush everything.
All right.
And so, yeah.
So how can they reach you if they want to
find me on Facebook. My email address is Rich, R-I-C-H. It's in the name.
Interesting.
BDA for Bermuda, right? RICHBDA at gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, Richard Augustus. That's my name. You find me. Get me on email on Facebook. And I post a lot of stuff on Facebook, links to videos, and we'll help you get your Facebook fan page started.
Yes. Shelby, that's my sister abroad, and Donna. Donna says she's retired, so she's not. But anyway, Donna, you have more time to research all of this stuff for us. But Richard, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Need to Lead, to giving people some information that they can utilize. And it's really up to us. People here, we need to be doers of the word, not just hearers of the word. So if we want to make a difference, we need to do something. And Richard says, turn off the television. But I'm going to ask you for your final thoughts that you'd like this audience to remember about economic empowerment. And again, I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for being who you are, for being interested in sharing information, and for being a teller as well as a doer.
Right.
All right.
And so, in closing, just take care of each other. Right, we need to be stewards of each other. We have to be our brother's keeper, and I find great joy in helping other people. And I think together through cooperative economics and coming together as a community and learning and growing together, we can defeat everything. Money is the great equalizer, or having financial freedom is a great equalizer. We can get back what was stolen from us, people, and speaking from this perspective. But it's everybody, us in our community, black. I'm not racial per se, but it's us against the 1%. We're all in the same boat together, and we need to come together as Bermudians and fight the powers that be.
All right. All right. Economic freedom. God bless you, everyone. Have a great weekend. You've been listening to The Need to Lead with Shangri-La Durham Thompson and Mr. Richard Augustus. And God is for us. And when he is for us, who can be against us? He's got it. God bless you. Have a great weekend. The Need to Lead.
102.7 WMJ FM Bermuda. Magic 102.7.